Grant, what's your feel on where things stand with George Kittle? And should there be maybe a little bit more alarm that a deal isn't done or that the two sides are far enough apart at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if alarm's the word, but I think people should be paying attention because I always go back to Buckner. Why did that fall apart? I mean, Buckner ended up getting $21 million a year from the Colts. What do we think the Niners offered? I mean, they ended up giving Eric Armstead $17 million a year, 17.5. So they must have offered Buckner a little more. They have the same agent. I mean, everyone knows Buckner's better than Armstead. So I'm guessing the Niners offered Buckner somewhere between 18 and 19. Right? Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
So they offered probably 18. Let's say they offered 19, and Buckner said, "No, we'd like 21." And the Niners said, "That's a deal breaker. $2 million. That's a deal breaker." And so we're trading you. So okay, that's the context for Kittle. Kittle, I think, is within his right to ask for 17.5. I mean, he should be the second highest paid player on the team after Jimmy Garoppolo. Correct?
I mean, yeah.
Okay, so I think. If the Niners were offering him 17.5, I think he'd take it. But I think the Niners think, why do we have to do that? You're a tight end. We can tag you in 2021, pay you $10 million. Kyle Shanahan schemes anyone open. I have a feeling that the Niners and Kittle are about $3-4 million apart. I'm guessing. And that sounds like, well, that's not that much. They can work that out. Well, it was a lot for Buckner and the Niners. And if Kittle's unwilling to come down below 17.5, which I think I wouldn't let him go below that if I were his agent, then the same thing could play out with Kittle that played out with Buckner. I mean, do you guys see it different?
Well, well, go ahead, Nash. I'll let you jump in. I don't see them. I mean, I don't see them trading him, but I do see the point in terms of being apart on the money. And I'm with you. We were talking a few weeks ago, and the number I had was 17. 17 to me is like that's about right, really. But I think you're right. I think the 49ers to me are probably more in like the 13 and a half range.
Yeah, I would agree.
The problem is, Grant, I mean, if you don't pay him, someone's going to eventually, and obviously there's an inevitable trade that you can get on there. But, I mean, what would hold them back from really wanting to pay him? Everyone else seems like they're on a team-friendly deal considering they're a pretty young team on the offensive side of the ball. And guess what? This offense is the way it is because you have George Kittle.
I totally agree. And if it were me, I would have extended this guy already. I think he's worth $20 million a year. 17 sounds like a bargain. He's a better player than Amari Cooper. But what's happening is the Niners just they control it. They can tag him. They know it. So why would they really cave to George Kittle? It seems like Kittle, what he would have to do is hold out. And I just don't think he's the kind of guy who would. I'm assuming here. But I think he likes playing football too much. He's played so hard for like $500,000 a season. He's going to ask for a lot of money, but I still think ultimately he'll play for $2 million this year. And if they tag him in 2021, I don't think he would demand a trade. He might, but I still think he will come back and play. And I think the Niners know that, and they're going to use that against him.
Okay, Grant.
Yeah, Grant.
Oh, go ahead, JD, if you had one.
No, sorry, man. I got twisted there. I thought you were up, but I guess I was up. The nature of not being able to see your partner when you're doing the show here, Grant. When you're doing the show from home.
You guys in the studio together. Of course they're not. Of course, right? Got it.
Yeah, I know. There are still these shelter-in-place rules. From time to time, you kind of forget they exist, right? If you're kind of trolling around the bay.
They don't matter, so I don't know.
Oh my God, that's yeah. Good Lord, that's a whole nother. Yeah, that's a whole nother. At what point do you feel like I'm with you? I mean, Kittle isn't going to hold out now, but at what point do you feel it could start to get a little bit ugly or a little bit nasty? Because so much of the 49ers' success, I think, has been, scheme and talent and good players and all that, but they've been able to keep they've been able to keep the mood really good and positive and team-oriented, and they've had a very good energy even when they stunk, basically.
Right.
Does George Kittle being ticked off, even if it's below the surface about his contract, is that something that you could see maybe seeping over and changing what's been a pretty positive culture to this point?
Well, I think it's a great question, and I think it's something they probably avoid. I mean, again, go back to Buckner. They could have had him on a fifth-year option this year for like $9 million, And they didn't want to do it because they knew that would create bad blood. And they wanted to do right by Buckner, I guess. So they traded him. I think it's within the Niners' rights to ask George Kittle to finish out his rookie contract his first 4 years the way Buckner did. But after that, if they give him the franchise tag, that's kind of like giving Buckner the fifth-year option. It's about the same amount of money. And so you think you could expect the same response from Kittle to be like, what the heck are you doing? And why are you doing this to me? Like, I'm a great player and you're wasting my prime. Can't you just let me leave if you don't want to pay me what other teams would? And I think what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have shown is they say, okay, fine, we'll work with you. So I expect George Kittle will come back and play for whatever $2 million this year and make another run at the Super Bowl. But I think after that, that's it. Either the Niners are going to have to decide to give him their $17 million a year, or they'll do what the Chiefs did with Dee Ford and tag him and trade him. I would give him the money, but it's Kyle Shanahan here, and again, he really does believe that he can scheme anyone open. And I wouldn't be surprised if he feels that they could trade George Kittle next year for a first, the way they traded Buckner, and just draft the best tight end available, whoever that is, and Shanahan can make him look like a star as well. I mean, that's kind of a cynical way of looking at it, but they're going to have to choose between Kittle and Trent Williams. Trent Williams is going to be a free agent. He plays a more critical position, and he might make even more money than Kittle. So are they just going to let Trent Williams go? They just renegotiated his deal and made it so they can't give him the franchise tag, which is strange because they can give it to Kittle. So if I was Kittle's agent, I'd be thinking right now, wow, they seem a little bit more enamored with the left tackle than my client. Why is that?